So what do you think of the title? Anybody looked at it?
Great title.
Great title, huh? Great title. So is cursing an art?
Yes. It can be.
Unfortunately, it has become one, if it wasn't for a long time. In fact, I'll guarantee you that each one of us could probably name someone who's probably really good at it. And unfortunately, it might even include us. And we can also talk about those folks that sometimes it's like, gee, that didn't even make any sense, you know. And having taught middle school, I would have to say that I've certainly heard that. I've heard that middle school boy or girl try to make a statement that they were really cool. And what they said was like really dumb. Not just with cursing, almost all the time. But you know, if we really look at it in our society, so not only is it an art form, unfortunately, amongst us, it's an art form that allows you to make millions of dollars. I dare say that at least one of us here in the room has listened to one or two of the comedians who make their living by the art of their ability to swear. And they make millions of dollars. And then I dare say that some in the church pay more money watching, buying movies, CDs, and downloads from those very comedians than they give to the mission of Jesus Christ. And if we don't spend more money in doing that, I'll bet that we spend more time listening, watching, and enjoying the cursing in their comedic acts than we do in reaching out, serving, praying, and certainly, probably, reading the Bible. The art of cursing probably is much greater than the skill of reading for most of us. So in looking at that, you say, all right, so, okay, we could use our time a little better. Okay, we could use our money a little better. But is it really a big deal about cussing? And I'll share with you that I've asked that question. I've actually asked that because I walk around, you open the Bible and you go, so I shouldn't take the Lord's name in vain, but it doesn't say anything about when I stump my toe and it hurts really bad and I shout something else. Well, one of the authors this week says, in fact, so we can spend a little bit more time. I mean, after all, it does sort of make us seem like we fit in like real folks. In fact, the author says the most common motivations for swearing are very telling. I think there are three main reasons on why people swear. And he admits that there may be others, obviously. He says first is that they get really angry at their mom, their brother, or their car, and as the heat begins to rise, they bubble over and let go with a few new words. He said many people swear, especially high school boys, because they're extremely insecure. I would not limit that to just high school boys. And in order, because I think as adults that's something too. And in order to make themselves sound much tougher than they actually are, they cower and hide behind a shell of vulgar language. And three, through habit, people swear obsessively, thinking four-letter words to be the best available adjectives. The author says that these motivations, they seem to say them at best, is swearing is a facade to mask our insecurity, and at worst, a violent eruption at an angry, bitter heart. Wow. We had said this whole series is going to be about being tongue-tied, and we talked about the power of words, and we talked about the art of being able to confront someone, and the confronting didn't mean arguing. Okay, it meant making them, bringing them back to their original form of godliness. I love that call and response church. I actually do. You know, so here we are now at this for this week, and talking about this whole art of cursing and what effect it has on us. And I would dare say that most of us would say that in this society, we probably condone cursing more than at any other time in the history of the civilization, at least in this Western world. It is more than acceptable. It's just the way it is. You know, I was amazed at multiple times in my career in teaching schools that I said, I would look at a kid and I would go, I guess your mom would be really proud to know that those are the words that you were using. And he looks at me and goes, I said the same thing to her. And she said the same thing to me. That wasn't one child, that was multiple kids. And we wonder why that when we discipline our kids and we yell at them across the room and tell them to stop the blank, 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 and you can't get enough beeps in there to stop things, we wonder why when they get angry at us that they turn around and say things about us in the same terms. Or why they snap off in school and then they say it to their teachers. Or why we end up getting so used to it that then we walk into the office and when the boss rips us a new one, we turn around on him or her and we let loose with something that may very well cost us our jobs. And you go, but. I'll share a quick story. And I was umpiring a game in Richmond, Virginia, and it was a college kind of like qualifier game that all the coaches were coming down to on July 4th on the weekend. It's a huge tournament, and I'm behind the plate, and I mean there's people packed in behind the stands. It's a softball field, so the backstop is not far away, you know. And I'm down there. I've got this team from New Jersey. I had a slide play at the plate, and I'm in there, and I don't remember if it was a safe or an out call, but whatever it was, it was close. But in my mind, close, but it really wasn't close. I mean, it was close to everybody watching. It was really a pretty easy call. Bang, the call. The coach comes running in from third base. This little guy from Jersey, who I ended up having a history with over a few years. And he comes running down, and he looks at me standing at home plate. These are 16 and under girls. I mean, hundreds of people in back of me. And he tells me that's the worst effing call that he's ever seen in his life. I said, Coach, I said, the only thing I can let you know is that my next call will be the easiest call I've ever made in my life. And he looked at me kind of puzzled, and I went, you're gone. And he looks at me and he goes, why? I said, Coach, you can't come down here. You can come down here and argue, but you can't come down here and shout that in front of everybody. And his comment was, that's the way we do it in Jersey. Yeah. And I looked at him and I said, welcome to Richmond. But to him, it was normal. To him, it would have been acceptable. An umpire in New Jersey would have accepted that. So I guess the big question for us is cursing a sin? Well, what is sin? Sin is something that separates us from God and anything that demeans another person or God himself. Our cursing is not usually only demeaning to others, but it's often a form of demeaning some of the most blessed acts that God has given us. I mean, it wasn't long ago that we were talking about what it meant to have sex and what sex meant in a married relationship and the benefits of that and the gift that God has given us and the fact that we literally imprint. We have an emotional imprint every single time that occurs. And yet I would dare say in our society that the favorite word of choice demeans that act over and over and over again. In fact, I've actually seen, and many of you have probably seen, and you'll recognize it along with me, is the little article that talks about that word being the most universal word in the English language. Because it can be used as a noun, it can be used as a verb, it can be used as an adjective, it can be used as an adverb, it can be used at the beginning of the sentence, at the end of the sentence. It can even be a proper noun and you could use it as somebody's name. And yet the intent of it is to demean, hurt someone else, and to demean an act of God that He intended to be special. Sin? Yeah, I guess even I have to admit at this point, I think it goes by meeting the definition. It is sin. So then what do we do about it? I mean, our society has even reached the point that, do you know, it's more accessible, it's more acceptable to drop the F-bomb in public. It's more acceptable to take God's name in vain, or to yell Jesus' name in vain, than it is to make a derogatory remark about someone's age, gender, or race. Now, I would dare say that none of them. I don't condone any of them. But it is more acceptable in this world to damn God than it is to damn a gender, race, or age. You won't lose your job for swearing about God on TV, but you'll lose your job if you make any off-color a remark about a certain group of people. So even society says God doesn't count. Isn't it a big deal? It's no wonder that as Christians, we fall into that group. It's hard to run from it. One of the speakers this week at annual conference, she was absolutely amazing, talking to us about young adults and young people, and she went through a whole lot of facts. And one of the things that they said, the reason that people in general, particularly young adults, those up through the age of 30, have nothing to do with the church, is because they don't see us any different than anybody else. They see that we can take off our Jesus coat and we can go to the ball game with the guys and we can holler and scream and shout nasty things, and then we come back to church and we can put our Jesus back on, and we put Jesus back on, and then everything's real nice. We can go to the bar and take off our Jesus coat. We can go to Facebook, take off our Jesus coat, and we can write nasty things and put ha-ha funny stuff that's not so funny. They said that's what they see us as. And then the non-religious and nominally religious, they also tend to say that the one thing that they find different is that they hear us on the outside. And they find out that we are people at the church. And they don't go to church. But the things that they hear us saying, the jokes that they hear us telling, they sit back and go, why do I want to be there? They're no different than the people I work with over there. This is why our language, why words are so important. Oh yeah, we have to do, we have to have gifts of the Spirit, we have to go out and do. But you know, a lot of times people never get to see us do. They never see you they see you buying diapers, but they don't know that you're giving them to someone who can't afford them. All they know is that you're cussing a person in line because they can't get their money out of their wallet get it out fast enough. True or not, these images that people see of Christians, we help create it. What will we do to make Jesus seen more in our lives? The Journey Church in New York and the one in Boca Raton, Florida that I've talked about actually put pledge cards in the program and gave people an opportunity to sign a pledge card. I'm going to ask you this week to do the same with me. We don't have a pledge card. But to challenge yourself. Not because you'll be holier than thou, not because you'll be better than someone else, and not because by not cussing that you'll get to heaven. Because none of that is going to be true. But I'm going to ask you to join with me to pledge that you're going to change your language. I'm going to ask you to change, because it doesn't have to be the list of words that we tell our kids in school that they can't say. It could simply be the list of words that continues to run people down. Some of the words that we think we can say. The words that we run people down because they may have a preference of a sexual lifestyle that's different than what we think. That they don't attend church, they don't worship God, or they are, heaven forbid, one of those religions that we check off and talk about how nasty that they are. I'm not saying their theology's right. But we have no more right to run them down than we do anyone else until we clean up our own lives. So the pledge is this, that we're going to go away from church for today thinking about becoming disciples. And disciples are different, and we're going to be talking more and more about this in probably the next year, is discipleship is where we need to be going now. We've got membership. So we got folks showing up and being members and getting involved. But discipleship is when your life is changed from the inside out and people know it because you are willing to share with them that I'm buying diapers, I'm serving food because God has done so much in my life that I just can't stop myself. And one of them is I'm going to change my language. Today when you come to the table, you're going to come asking to be forgiving. Asking to become a disciple of Christ. A disciple with a clean voice, as you heard in Scripture this morning. If you didn't hear Jane when she read it, open to Ephesians 4 and verse 25. Go down, I think it's 27 is the actual verse. Read it again. Read it while you're sitting here coming to communion. Become one of those folks whose lives are changed forever. And it's changed for the better because they follow Christ and they just overflow with care and compassion, beginning with the power of their words.